What we're looking at here is a 1972 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. I've had this car since high school. It's got some, I've taken a lot of the trim off the sides and stuff like that. You can see the lower trim down there. Let's see if I can zoom in down there where I'm talking. I've taken that off, mainly just to see what the condition was like underneath there. Because I wasn't sure, but I've got a little bit of rust right up there in the front, but it's not too bad. I'm hoping that I'll just be able to either weld in some patch panels or something on that front fender right there. But overall, the car is fairly solid. There's a dent right there in the quarter, and most of my problems are on the quarter panels. Right back here, there's a little bit of rust. And right in there on the front side of that, there's a little bit, but I'm hoping I'll be able to patch a lot of that up. So it'll probably get windy. I may have to insert some music here, but we'll take a walk around the car and I'll show you what's going on. Yeah, I just always, this is to me, you know, maybe not to everybody, not everybody's cup of tea, but this is the kind of car that when I go into the store, I have to turn around, turn back, and look at it at least a couple of times, just because I can't believe how good it looks. Even in its current state, I can still see those beautiful lines that make this car just one of my all-time favorite Chevrolets ever. We'll look back here, right down there, right by the front of that tire. There's a little bit of rust, not too bad. This quarter panel is actually not too bad. The worst part about it's that dent right there, and that can probably be knocked out. Of course, it's got some mold going on underneath here. I've got just a tiny bit right here going on, and I'm hoping I'll be able to get that in the shop and sand that down, and hopefully not even have to patch it, but if I do have to patch it, it'll be a minimal spot right there. It's not too bad. Of course, the package tray is garbage. They were just glorified cardboard anyway, so. And this is the worst quarter panel right here. I'm sure this one's going to need to be replaced, or at least patched. This side of the car is not too bad. Other than that, the rockers are in good shape. All the glass is good, with the exception of the front glass. It's not that it's cracked or broken, it's that the previous owner before me, he was a high schooler. I bought it off him. It had been sitting in his grandma's backyard for a while or something, and it still ran. He had neglected it and let it sit there a while, so I went and put a battery in it and got it running and bought it off of him. $800. And I was a broke teenager, so I had to save up a little while to pay him that $800, but I got it paid off, and I drove it for probably about 15 years, and then needs a little oil there. You can see it's a bucket seat. It didn't actually originally have bucket seats. I put these in. These are out of a Grand Prix, and when I put them in, man, they were super nice, but over the years, the sun has split the leather there at the seams, or vinyl probably. Got some work to do to that door panel, mainly down at the bottom down there. But some of the stitching has gone now, but I don't know, we'll see. The dash is cracked up. It's got no headliner in it. Yeah, I just love these old Chevys. I like to get them. This is about the right year because it's got disc brakes on it. And anything older, you get into situations where it might not have discs, and you're dealing with drums and stuff like that. Yeah, pretty cool old car. I always used to just love driving this thing around, and was at one time gonna hot rod it out, and kind of glad I didn't. Authentic. 30 inches. I can't open the hood because I don't have hinges on the rear right now, and it would take help from a buddy. I'm gonna pop that off before long, but I can't open the trunk. And we got a really massive hailstorm here a few years back, and it knocked a dent right here, and probably several of them actually, but this is the worst one. It knocked that's a baseball size hailstone right there that hit it. Fortunately, it did not break the glass. I was worried about that because this glass is at such a slope on this car that, I thought, oh darn, a hailstone's gonna come in there and break my back glass, but luckily no glass was damaged. It's probably a dent or two on the hood that I haven't seen. I'll see a lot of that once I wash the body up, get this mold and scuzz off of here. But yeah, let's check out the trunk. Haven't been in here in a while. Still got the radiator in there. I put some plastic down there to keep the if any water leaked in, maybe it would catch it there and I could see it, but I don't see any. It looks fairly dry, surprisingly. So yeah, I'm sure, you know how it is when you're working on old cars. I'm sure I'll find more rust when I get in there. But yeah, that's the snorkel on that thing, the radiator fan shroud. It's massive. And it's almost going to look weird without it in there because I'm so used to seeing it. But I'm thinking about going with the electric fan setup, and just because that way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about a belt or whatever running that. So I'm considering going electric on some of that stuff. But anyways, guys, yeah, I just thought I'd give you a shot of the old 72. Hadn't messed with it in a while, but it's time. It's time to pull it in. And I've got a motor in the shop that I'm working on right now. I'll show you that in a moment. Yeah, I just love this car. It's got massive doors on it, man. Great. And originally I wanted to tear it all apart and do the full frame off on it, but I've decided that I'm just going to get it running and driving again. And I've got a sandblaster, so I'm going to go through and blast much of the frame as I can get to, and recoat it, repaint it. So anyways, yeah, when we come back here in a minute, I'll show you the engine. And here's the engine. Nothing radical. It's just a 350. It's actually a 2-bolt main, but it was the factory motor from this car, or for this car. I had it worked over. Line board, had the cylinders brought up to 30 thousandths over, so now this engine is a 355.1 instead of just a regular 350. But you can see I've got the short block all assembled, and did the put all that together, the rotating assembly and all that myself. I did, followed procedure, torqued everything down to specs, all that stuff. Used the what's that stuff called? The plastic gauge on the bearings and stuff to make sure my clearances were all right. So we should be good to go. Now my real hang up is, and I need to make a decision. I had this thing zero decked also, so that when you run the piston up to top dead center, it's on zero with the deck. So, and they actually had to shave quite a bit off this thing to get that to happen, but it was because this is a 70s smog block, and in combination with that, they put these smog heads on here. These are I don't know if you'll see that, but they're 333-882 heads, and they're pretty much they used them for like from 70 something till into the 80s. They might have actually in the late 70s, let's say. Either way, my problem is now that originally I was going to put Vortec heads on this engine, And that was my thinking was, yeah, go ahead and go up to the vortex, and that'll, you know, increase your compression and give you a good running street motor. Well, that probably would have been fine, except for that I'd zero decked the block. When I had all in for the machine shop work, I didn't think about that, you know, when you add the vortex small chambers to a zero deck block, now you're up well above 10.5 to 1 compression, which would be great for a race motor, but not so great for a street motor that you're trying to use, you know, as a cruiser. So what I'm looking at now is, more than likely, I'm either going to just do some work on these heads, because I already have them, and they've already been rebuilt. They don't look real great, but they were rebuilt several years ago, and this engine, I had it rebuilt by some people, and I don't know if it was just an old harmonic balancer or a weak keyway in the crankshaft, but essentially after the rebuild, I got 1,000 miles on the engine, and the crankshaft keyway, it's on the opposite side right now, but the keyway shattered and broke, and so I could not any longer use that harmonic balancer. Now, if I'd have known what I know now, I might have been able to do some kind of a machine work trick on it or something to make it work, you know, where I locked on that balancer onto that shaft somehow. But either way, I didn't. I took it all apart, put a new crank in it, checked the cylinders. They were all like brand new, so everything else is just, you know, new cylinders, new bearings, new cam bearings. I had those done when it was at the machine shop, because they're supposed to be fairly hard to install if you don't have the tool. Maybe even impossible to install. I don't know. I've never done them, so I just paid them to do them. But I've got all my bolts sorted out over here, where when I get ready for assembly, I've got most of my pieces going. Now I am going to change out my cam. In fact, I took it over to another shop, the other shop I've got, and probably the lifters, and I'm sure the push rods and all that stuff, the timing chain, I'll probably put a double roller in it. You know, I'm trying to just make it really reliable and have some good pep. You know, I'd like to get, you know, it'd be nice to get 300 or 400 horsepower out of it, but, you know, 300, 350, somewhere in there, I'll settle for that. So mainly I want a nice torquey motor because it's going in that big car I just showed you. So anyhow, but yeah, that's what I got going on. I'm trying to make decisions, because once you know, of course you can always put different heads on later if you so choose. So it's not really the end of the world. I mean, you could always change that stuff with the engine in the car. It's just so much better to work on it when it's right here on the stand and easy to get to. So anyways, that's what I've been working on today, and right now I'm just turning this over to, you know, keep oil in all the cylinder holes, because I have had some places here on the valley where it started to rust a little bit, and I don't like that. So anyways, that's what I'm doing, oiling up the block and getting ready for cylinder heads, stuff like that, camshaft. And I don't want to put too fat of a cam in it, because again, I want this to be a good street car, and that car's got vacuum brakes, so I want to have enough vacuum to be able to drive down the road. So back in the old days, people would just put a 350 horse cam, or a 327 350 horse cam, or something like that. In fact, that's what I had in this before, was a 327 300 horse cam, and it ran pretty good, but I'd like to get it a little better, a little bit of lope at the idle, you know, so that it has that killer sound, and that car has Flowmaster exhaust on it, so it'll sound good. So anyways, if you guys are into wrenching and stuff, got any suggestions on good deal on some cylinder heads or something that I should maybe bolt on rather than those, let me know. All right, have a great day.